Rob, can you play that clip of RFK on Tucker? I think he was just on Tucker a couple days ago. Here's what he had to say.
So I have an injunction right now against the Biden White House to enjoin them from censoring me, which they've been doing. The 155-page decision by Judge Doty details everything that happened 37 hours after he took the oath of office. President Biden's White House opened up a portal for the FBI to begin to have access to social media posts on all the different social media sites. And the FBI then invited in the CIA, DHS, the IRS, and CISA. CISA is this new agency that is the center of the censorship industrial complex that is in charge of making sure Americans don't hear things that their government doesn't want them to hear. And those agencies and other agencies, including the health agencies like CDC, were given access to go into the social media sites and change posts and slow walk things and shadow ban posts. That it was part of that effort. They removed my Instagram account. I had almost 1 million followers. They say it was for misinformation, but they could not point to a single post that I ever made that was factually erroneous. And they actually, Facebook pushed back in the email chain. You can see Facebook pushing back at the White House and saying, well, wait a minute, he's not, this isn't misinformation. This is not factually erroneous. What they're saying is actually true. And they had to invent a new word, which is called malinformation, which is information that is factually true, but nevertheless inconvenient for the government. And that became disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation. That's what that is.
You can pause it right there. By the way, here's one thing he said yesterday. He said Ross Perot, when he ran as an independent, the mainstream media invited him to be on 34 times. He says, I've only been invited twice. Okay? Think about that. 34 times, and he's a Kennedy. So he's a Kennedy, you only get invited 34 times. So this leads to all of this leads to one thing. Okay, let me transition into this next story. Obviously, he announces that RFK Trump announced that he's joining the campaign, and then he says, more Democrats are joining the campaign. Okay. RFK said over the weekend that he'll be campaigning for Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump in the days and weeks to come, that he expects that more Democrats will soon be joining the campaign. RFK made remarks Sunday interview on Fox News Sunday with host Shannon Bream after he announced last week that he was suspending his campaign to endorse Trump. I'm going to be campaigning actively. I think President Trump is going to make a series of announcements about other Democrats who are joining the campaign. And, I want to make America healthy again. And so does President Trump. So those are objectives. So, Adam, when you hear a story like this, Bobby says what he says, okay? And other Democrats are getting ready to join. They're putting together the unity team. How much worse is this going to be for the opposing party when you're talking about Kamala Harris and what they have going on the other side?
So the question was always, who does RFK hurt more, Trump or Biden at the time, and then now essentially Harris? And there was no clear answer. There was a lot of people saying, well, he's taking away votes from Trump. Well, he's a former Democrat. He's taking away votes from the Democrats. And there's two schools of thought. Well, if he's been trending at basically 5%, Rob? What's his number if you scroll down to the bottom? 5%, I want to say. Bingo.
4.7. Yeah.
If you want to trust these polls, what is this, 538? If you want to just go.
And this is national, state by state. He's 4 to 7, depending on the state. Thanks,
Tom. Harris is about 47. Trump's about 43, 44, right? So Trump is always, big, bold, highlighted letters, always somewhere in the mid 40s. When he beat Hillary Clinton in 2016, she was basically, mid to 47, and she won the popular vote, and he beat her in the Electoral College. Now, what happened with Biden was Biden, ironically, had 51% of the vote, and then basically after 6 months, his numbers completely plummeted. What was the number here, Rob?
45.7%. Okay. Clinton, 41.8% Trump.
All right, so Trump's and that's his approval rating. That's not the amount of votes, because I think the amount of votes was obviously higher. But the point is, Trump has a ceiling and he has a floor, and it's the mid-40s. They're not leaving. They're not coming. That's what his story is. The Democrats, whether you like it or not, they've reached 50 with Joe Biden. And they're starting to reach almost 50. If you look at that number right now, 48 with Kamala. So we'll see what happens with that. So 47.2. So I'm in the school of thought that, in theory, getting RFK's endorsement is a great thing. Obviously, if he's going to drop out of the race, let's get his vote. But I don't think Trump really fares well in a binary race, unfortunately, because what happened is in 2016, there was a guy, Gary Johnson, who was the Libertarian candidate. You remember that? And he took, 4 or 5% of the vote. And what is the number there, Rob?
4.8%.
Okay,
Gary
boom.
Johnson.
So it turns out my numbers are right. And those people, essentially took votes away from Clinton, it would seem. In 2020, as you know, you interviewed the powerhouse beast, Joe Jorgensen, who did she even get greatest debater of all time? We all know. Did she even get 1%? And so all those people broke towards Biden. So what's going to happen right now is the following. There's a lot of people out there, especially vocal people, who have been hiding behind the RFK vote. I have a lot of friends in the crypto world. I'm like, who are you going to vote for? And they're like, well, I can't really do the Kamala thing, and Trump, I can't say RFK. I think I'm going to go with RFK. Well, now you don't have that option. And you certainly don't have that option to say it out loud. So there's a lot of people out there, me at one point included, that's like, it's sort of like run and cover. And now you have no option to do that. So the reality is...
There's one option.
Yes.
And it's going to be the highest. You know what the one option is?
What?
Let me tell you what the one option is. I'm at Angelo's, and one of the guys is there with his friend who's a lawyer. The lawyer goes on a 15-minute rant about how much he hates Trump, okay? And then I say, so how do you feel about Kamala? He goes on another whatever on how much he hates Kamala. I said, so what the hell are you going to do now? You're screwed. Because you don't even have the Bobby option. You know what the third option is?
What?
Sitting it out. So a lot of people that are going to sit this one out. And by the way, the people sitting this out are not the people on the right, are the people on the left. This may be one where a lot of people on the left sit this one out. Now, we heard the news, Rob, about Secret Service, right? Secret Service comes out, the announcement was made on Sunday, and the fact that Bobby is no longer going to be getting Secret Service protection. And, because he's announced what he announced 2 days later, there's no more Secret Service. Is this the one with... Is this him saying that?
Well, this is him speaking with Glenn Beck yesterday after they've removed his Secret Service protection, and he tells Glenn Beck that his life is now in God's hands.
Go ahead and play this clip.
You've had Secret Service pulled from you now by this administration, which I think is reprehensible. How uncomfortable are you with that decision?
I'm okay. Listen, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. My life is in God's hands. I'm okay with, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, whether I have that or not.
You can pause that right there, Rob. So the way I process it is the following. And I talked about this over the weekend. I think them doing what they're doing here, one, you go quiet skies with Tulsi, right? You target her and you put her on a terrorist watch list? Mm-hmm. What are you talking about? Then you take RFK's Instagram account out when he calls out Fauci with that book he wrote. Then you shut him down. CNN doesn't invite him. MSNBC doesn't invite him. ABC doesn't invite him. CBS doesn't invite him. So he gets as high as he did purely because of independent podcasts. That's how Bobby gets up. And then now you're pulling his Secret Service protection. You gave it to him on July 15th, 2 days after Trump's assassination, because Trump said Bobby should get it. He gets it. Then you drop it. Look at this coincidence. You give it to him 2 days after Trump gets assassinated. You take it away from him 2 days after he endorses Trump. And now you're just forcing Bobby, RFK Jr., to only be in one place to be safe, which is campaigning with Trump. So now imagine the next 70 days, whatever this is going to be. They're going to go on the road show, right? Which Glendale, Arizona, that opening was wild. And you're going to go on the road, and every event that you go to Now you mean to tell me I'm going to hear from Tulsi? You can just play this clip, Rob, if you want to. Now you mean to tell me I'm going to hear from Tulsi, I'm going to hear from Bobby, and I'm going to hear from Trump at all these events? I mean, this is insane to me, right, when you see this. Okay, now Vivek's with his camp. You know, Dana White came in, obviously, with his camp. He was at the RNC. The group that put together while this is going, you can pause this, Rob. The group that put together with the direction this is going, I think it's just a lot of mistakes back to back to back. Now, the DNC side, comes out and say, joy is their campaign slogan, right? We're just so happy. We were just so joyful. It was so much joy at, the event that we had. The DNC was so awesome. Rob, you want to play this clip?
This is, just so you know, this is a montage
of a bunch of joyful things being said.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
The one thing that I will not forgive them for is their try to steal the joy from this country.
That's right.
The joy felt by Americans
From Joy
backing the
Reid.
Harris Walls ticket.
We are
She got rid of her
joyful
Donald
warriors.
Trump haircut.
Being joyful is part of the American identity.
Okay.
The joy factor. Campaign of joy. You're talking about radical joy.
It is downright joyful.
It looks like a joyous rally. It looks like a joyous occasion.
A real zeal and joy in the campaign.
The joy that you're bringing back to the country.
Joyful, exuberant rally.
Thank you for bringing back the joy.
Power of joy, hope and joy.
Something incredibly joyful.
She does it all with a sense of joy.
Joy. Joy.
Joy.
Joy.
Joy. Joy. Joy.
They all got the memo.
Imagine that.
I have so much to say.
American
Yeah, well, let me just read this to you, and then I'm
Wow.
going to come to you guys. I'm going to come to you guys. Let me just read this to you. So the story comes out while they're doing this. New York Times, who's on their side, all these people's sides, comes out, and here's an opinion that says, joy is not a strategy on August 23rd. Okay? So can you imagine they're like all being excited? Hey, we have such a great marketing campaign. It's joy. That's what we're all about. New York Times says, nah, it's not a good strategy. During the Republican convention, Trump was exalted by delegates as a near divine figure, repeatedly described as having been spared to save the country after the assassination attempt. However, Trump squandered the goodwill from skeptical voters by delivering this same old rant in his nomination speech, failing to capitalize on a moment when people expected him to act like a changed man. Now, this is what they're saying. The Democratic convention heavily focused on Kamala as a symbol of joy, with the word being used so often that it felt overbearing. Bill Clinton even dubbed her the president of joy. But this emphasis on joy overlooks the reality that joy is not a political strategy. Voters are more concerned with practical issues like lowering household costs and improving access to housing, not just a feel-good rhetoric. Amy, what do you have to say about this?
Oh, this next line is great. Sorry, the Mean Girls reference. I don't know if you guys get this, where they say it's the new fetch for Mean Girls. Guys, Democrats, stop trying to make joy happen, okay? It's not going to happen. Anyone who knows Mean Girls reference would laugh at that. This is absolutely ridiculous. And you can see the way this messaging is being utilized, both to prop Harris up and also to bring down to bring down Trump and to bring down J.D. Vance as well, because their messaging for the Republican side is that they're weird. So all in all, the messaging is that Republicans are weird, the Democrats are joyful, and I just want to know, what group chat are all of these people a part of where all of a sudden they just get the message, hey guys, this is the main strategy that we're going to be focusing on.
The word of the day is joy.
Exactly. Like it's so ridiculous. One thing that I found very interesting when looking into this slogan is that a lot of the people who write these speeches appear to not really do their research, because joy, strength through joy, is actually a slogan that was utilized before during a very particularly interesting part of history, Pat, which is actually Nazi Germany. This was their main slogan utilized during Nazi Germany. Strength through joy.
The same line, strength through joy.
A Nazi-operated leisure organization used as a tool to promote the advantages of Nazism to German people, champion this as their slogan. And what's interesting...
Are you joking?
And what's interesting is by 1939, it had become the world's largest tourism operator. This exact same
Did you hear that?
So, guys,
1939, Strength Through Joy was the largest tourism operator.
Wow, it says it right there. Yeah, so KDF was composed of several departments with their own specific goals, with each department organizing different leisure activities. So, okay, so now obviously, how much of this do you think is coincidence? How much you think it's intentional? How much of it you think is just a pure screw up that they didn't pay attention to this?
Yeah, I think the speechwriters aren't doing their research. They don't know their history, and they don't care to know their history because all they care about is propaganda and all they care about is messaging. But had somebody done their research for 2 minutes, they would have found this.
Are we sure we want to go with the Strength Through Joy thing? So this is, once again, Democrats running on feelings versus the hard work of policies and promises. And the feelings, tax the rich. Oh, I feel so, it's so unfair. Tax the rich, feelings. We're throwing joy at you. It's all of these feeling monikers that they're throwing at the American people, not throwing them at real things that can work, such as the policy things that she threw out over the weekend that even Obama's economist was backing up, going, yeah, I don't think that's a really good policy. Even Obama's chief economist was saying, look, these things they're talking about are not a sensible policy. They may get people emotionally aroused, but it's not sensible.
Adam, thoughts?
Well, look, the reality is Democrats are way better at marketing than Republicans, period. And if you want to go pound for pound, Trump is a way better marketer than anybody as an individual. So you have Trump versus the entire DNC, mainstream media, Hollywood versus basically Trump and Truth Social. And they're in a neck-to-neck race. I think it's complete fabrication that the joy of the Nazis is equivalent to the joy of the Democratic Party, but you do you. What I will say is this. There's a famous phrase from our friend Mario Cuomo where he said, you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. Yes, I'm quoting your father, Chris Cuomo. And basically what that means is, yes, during the convention, you don't have to have deep policy specifics. That's not what people are there for. They're there for raw emotion, and call it joy and inspiration and emotions. And obviously in your book, you talked about the marrying of emotion and logic and why it's important to utilize both. Now, what I'll say is when you govern, you kind of got to get emotion out of the system and be stoic and be practical and be pragmatic and use logic. So the joy part, or whatever the emotional poetry part that you're using during a campaign strategy, go for it. But unless Kamala Harris actually lays out policies that are actually helpful to the American family, unlike sort of this Marxist, socialist agenda, lipstick on a pig, where she's going to give the opportunity economy and everyone's going to be happy and joyful now. Yeah, show me the numbers, because I'm not buying it. So even this story right here, high rent forces mom of two to move family into a hotel. Hope and joy ain't paying my bills. And I totally agree. So it's fine for now. And there's a lot of people who could just go on raw emotion. They're going to fall for it. But I want to see a policy and I want to see an action strategy from Kamala Harris.
Are you overlooking the collusion of the mainstream media? Have you ever seen the mainstream media repeat a Trump point like this?
Of course. Well, we've seen the whole talking point, but obviously they got the memo.
For 13 and a half years, I know this sounds kind of weird, I've been working on a fiction book. I've never written a fiction book before until now. It's called The Academy.
Damn.
I've been working on this thing since 2011. It's a story about a kid who gets recruited into a secret society that's been around for a long time that develops the greatest leaders in the world, and you get a chance to go into this vault to learn from different leaders. Imagine having a one-on-one conversation with people that have been dead for many years, but this technology allows you to have a conversation with them, ask them about any issues that's going on. There's 10 characters in this book. Tupac's one of them. Marilyn Monroe's another one. Who else can I tell you? Ayn Rand's in it. Karl Marx is in this book. There's a lot of tense moments. There's one character in the book that's going to be very controversial. The whole idea for these guys in this book is, I've never written a parenting book, but for some of you guys that like a Divergent meets Atlas Shrugged meets maybe, those two books, this is a book you're going to enjoy reading, specifically if you have kids ages 14 14 to 18 as well as adults. You'll enjoy it as well. This comes out next month, September, The Academy. Rob, if you can put the link below, you can go to Amazon to place the order of this book. We'll be talking more about this here, but for those that order early, you'll get your copies. These things sell out fairly quickly.
Can I see this thing?
Yes, The
It
Academy.
kind of reminds me of the painting, your most famous painting
So
kind of
that
come to life.
painting is the book. So you'll see some of the
Makes sense.
conversations that's being had here.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.